Welcome back, my friends. Eli here. And today on Be Cool People, it's going to be a solo episode. And I want to talk about communication and the real cost of bad communication. So I got a lot of notes to cover on this one. It's going to be, I think it's something that's not talked about enough. And people in today's world, they talk before they think about the things they're doing. And I've talked a lot about this lately, but because it's a little bit of a pet peeve, but it's also, especially in this world of super fast, fast food consumption of words and social media and video and all the different things, people aren't spending enough time to actually think about how you're communicating. They spend more time thinking about how to game the algorithm than they do on how to actually just talk to real people. So today, I want to talk about the real cost of bad communication. This all starts with a line that I remember hearing as a kid. You probably heard this too, because your mom probably said it to you. It's not what you say, but how you say it. And more so today than anything else, it's more important. We talk about on a business standpoint, people are looking at, they have to have the perfect hook and the perfect angle and all these different things, which might get them a lot of viewers, but nobody remembers it. Nobody pays attention to it. Nobody cares about it. Where I would rather have less people pay attention, but more people be engaged, more people feel like I was talking to them when I said it, and get that long-lasting result and make that bigger impact for other people than I do to get a million views. Because a million views in itself isn't really that important. If I get 100 views with the right people, that makes a difference. And I use that just as an example. This is all of our communication. So first and foremost, think about all the different channels you're using to communicate. For me personally, email, obviously, if you've followed me for any amount of time, email is my platform. That's the channel that I prefer to communicate with because I like to write. And if I can write great emails that help other people get the results that they're looking for, whatever that looks like, whether it's my business or not, I'm happy. Okay. But it could be LinkedIn. It could be how you communicate when you're talking in person. It could be over DM. I mean, it's everything because communication in itself is universal. And, we spend a lot of time these days talking about things like, personal branding and being authentic and transparency. And nowadays they've just become buzzwords. When people say, I'm going to be more authentic. Well, again, this is one of those things that if you hung out with me for a while, you probably heard me say this at least once. If you're trying to be authentic, you're probably doing it wrong. Because you shouldn't have to try to be authentic. You should just be authentic. You want to think about how you communicate and how can you relate to the other people or have them relate to you in a way that builds the relationship, that builds the trust. Okay. Now, there's 3 levels to communication, and I want to go through these. And if you're in a place where you can take notes, I would actually recommend you do that now because hopefully this is going to make some sense. The very first thing are the words themselves, the words that you say. Then, as a writer, this is super, super critical to me because the words on paper can create an emotional response. It can build trust. It can make people laugh. It can make people stop and think. And if the words are put together properly, it can have a huge impact. That is a base level. The next thing up, though, is the tone and delivery behind the words. Now, in person, we can say things, if you've studied voice at all, you're going to find times like as a speaker, speaking coaches or even voice coaches for actors do the same thing. Actually, they do it even more so. They teach people how to pace, how to pause, how to speed up when they're saying something intent or slow down when they want somebody to really lean in. They'll change the tonality. Maybe they'll speak a little bit higher when they're trying to say excitement about something. Or if they want to bring in somber or also build trust, a lot of times you just talk a little bit deeper. It's get people feel comfortable, more relaxed. Now, the cool thing is that for me as a writer, I know how to do this in writing as well, and it's obviously a little different, but it's important to understand these things. And if you can understand, it's not just the words you say, but how you say them, which is your tone and delivery. But more importantly, layer 3 is the actions that back up the words or don't back up the words. This is the part a lot of people miss. When people say, I'm here for you, I'm here to help support you, or I'm here for your success, and then they just ghost you. They don't show up. They're not there when you need them to be. Is that congruent with the words that they said? They said the words, and they may have even got the tonality wrong, so you believed them. But at the end of the day, if they didn't actually do the thing, the action wasn't there. Or do people just flat lie? In the quote unquote guru space, I don't like using that word, but it's a great way because unfortunately the guru term has gotten bastardized, and it's because so many people have done a horrible job of being the experts in their industry. They talk a good game. They know how to use the right words to convince people, and even their actions look good. You get people that are looking at how can you make your millions, and they have their pictures on a yacht, or their pictures next to a Lamborghini, or their pictures on a private jet. And then you find out that, oh, by the way, you can spend $500 and get a photo shoot, or $1,000 and get a photo shoot with all of those things in it. None of it's actually theirs. Their actions are exactly the opposite of what they're saying. So people judge all 3 pieces of this, whether you realize it or not, whether you think they should or not. And this is why understanding communication is so, so important. And being intentional about the words you say, how you say them, and the actions you do to back up those words. A great example of this, and when we talk about this, and I'm going to use this not as a example of a dishonest kind of thing, but I like know your audience. As a speaker, knowing your audience is important. You don't talk in big words if you're talking to a bunch of regular everyday people. I don't think you should use big words anyway. Plain and simple. If somebody is confused, they'll never buy from you. Okay? Don't confuse people. Break your language down to simple, everyday, just common language. Just talk to people. Don't get fancy. But also, know your audience. A great example of this is, Gary Vaynerchuk. A lot of people know him, Gary V. He's a super cool dude. I've met him multiple times. We've had great conversations together. I have a lot of respect for him. But one of the things that I found is that, one thing that people get bothered by with him is that he cusses on stage a lot. That's part of his personality. It's part of his upbringing. And he does try. I've seen him actually attempt to back it off, and he will apologize in advance. He's like, I'm going to really try. If I slip up, I'm sorry. But he tries. He makes an effort to know his audience and tries to back off. But the thing is that part of that is his true authenticity, but he really does make an effort to try to not be as vocal, I guess, when he's in front of different audiences. And there are times where he's not going to be a good fit for certain audiences, and that's great. But then I turn around and we see people who they see him getting away with cussing, and so they think that they have to drop the F-bomb every other sentence because, well, Gary Vee did it and everybody loves it, so that's what I got to do. Well, that's not being authentic. That's trying to fake what somebody else is. You're trying to game the system. And most of the time, it just looks stupid. It looks like somebody has no self-control. And I think that you have to learn how to have self-control. You have to learn how to mimic your language. So there are stages where I'll say a couple of things that are less politically correct, or whatever word you want to use. But if I know that a particular audience that I'm in front of, that's not going to fly, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to be very aware of what I do. But you need to be intentional about it. And I want you to think about like other examples of this. Like if you've ever been in the corporate world, and some of you have, not even just the corporate world, I've actually had clients who did this to me before, where the way that they are sort of doing humor is they threaten to fire you all the time, but they do it in a joking way. It's like, well, if you don't fix this, I'm going to have to fire you. Or if we don't fix this problem, I'm going to have to fire you. And the problem is that they think it's funny, and they're trying to put their point across that we need to solve the problem. But that doesn't help, because what it does is you're talking about somebody else's livelihood, and you're talking about taking that money away from them. They probably are trying to solve the problem, but by you doing that, you're now freaking them out. So now they're stressed. Now their brain's not going to work as well. I had a client who did this like once a month. He's like, well, it looks like I'm probably going to have to fire you this week. If we don't get this figured out, I'm going to have to fire you this week. And I was like, and I finally told him, I'm like, dude, stop. You have to stop doing that. You don't joke about other people's livelihoods. This is how they pay their rent, how they put food on the table. That's not a joke. If you change how you communicate and come from a place, all right, we got to figure this out. How can we do this? Make them feel welcome. Make them feel like they're part of it. Encourage them to find it. It's like that carrot and the stick concept. The stick is not going to work long term. And that particular person, I know for a fact, he lost good people because of it. Another example of this, and I'm giving you a couple of different examples to kind of think about how we communicate. Like we talked about the gurus and how they're saying things they talk about the big words, and they talk about all the things that they sell the dream, but they don't even have the dream kind of stuff. And then I'm bringing it down into a little bit more personal stuff. Think about that friend or a coworker or colleague that you jokingly insult. That's painful. And a lot of people don't realize it. As an example, somebody like for me as a speaker, I had somebody who, after I was done speaking, they were joking, and they do it in a joking way, and they mean it as a joking way. The problem is they come up and they're like, well, that didn't totally suck after I get off stage speaking. And that's their way of telling me I did good. Now, I've been around long enough, and I've dealt with people like that before. I'm not as hurt by it. But there's a lot of people that could crush them. And people's egos can get crushed really easy. And we're not talking about people that probably deserve it, that their ego's too big. We're talking about people that are just trying to figure things out. Or they did something, they really stepped out of their comfort zone. And that person didn't realize just how hard it was for that person to do that. And now they just kind of backhandedly insulted them. Now, again, their intent might have been fine. But if you've ever been in that situation, it probably stung, and it probably made you step back a few steps. This is all communication. How you deal with crisis, how you respond to crisis. The number one thing we always talk about in business, it's like how you do crisis handling. The worst thing in the world is to start lashing out at people. Well, bring it back to your day-to-day interactions, whether it's something you're posting on social media or emailing or even just talking to a friend. Be intentional of your words. Because if there's a crisis going on, lashing out at somebody else is not going to solve the problem. As much as you want to, it's not going to help, and it's not going to help anybody else want to help you. Communication comes down to all these little things. Now, most people are never going to deal with like a CEO level crisis. But if you can figure out what are the things that you say, how are you responding? Look at the things that you're posting on, say, social media. I've seen people posting stuff that tends to be very divisive, very controversial. They're literally trying to poke the bear because it gets comments, it gets likes, it gets responses, and the algorithms on social media love that stuff. But is that what you want to put out there? I have people that I think are really smart people. They do a lot of really cool things, but some of the stuff they post is literally just trolling the internet. And I will unfollow them. I lose respect for their skill set based on their actions. There's a lot of people like that. And here's the thing. You're finding other people that are also that way. So stop and think about what you're saying. Think about the things that you post. Think about the things that you comment on. I see a lot of people that their comments is like, if somebody posts something and they have an opinion on something, it doesn't really matter what it is, somebody else has to post something contradicting it or making themselves sound smarter than that original poster was. Stop and look at the stuff that you're posting. Is that you? Are you one of those people? And if you are, ask yourself, is this the message I really want to get out there? Do I want to be known as the guy who thinks he's smarter than everybody else? Because at the end of the day, we all know it's not true. Somebody else is going to be smarter than you. You know, a personal thing for me is I'm damn good at writing emails. I'm one of the best in the world. I have no hesitation of saying it. But that doesn't make me better than other people. It makes me better at doing a thing than other people. And just because I am amazing at that and I am great at that, and I have no hesitation saying that, that doesn't make me better than somebody else. It makes me better at that thing. And I bet you if I talk to anybody else, they're better at something else than I am. And that's okay. And it doesn't make them a better person than me for being better at that thing than me. Ask me to work on a car. I'm going to drop the ball. There's a lot of things in this world I am not good at. And a lot of those things are things that a lot of people are very good at. I have my specialty and I'm cool with that. I own that and I'm confident in that, but I'm not cocky and I'm not better than everybody else. I don't treat them poorly because I'm better at something. Because when you start doing that, people are going to start losing respect for you. And they're going to start trusting you less. And it doesn't matter how good you are. You could be the single best person in the world at that thing. But if people don't like you, they're not going to listen to you. They're not going to want to be around you. So think about the tone of the words you put out there. Not just what the words themselves are, but read, like before you hit send on that comment, read it a couple of times. Take a breather. Is this adding value to the thing? Or am I deflecting? Am I arguing? Am I being confrontational for the fact of just for the sake of doing those things? Because if so, it's probably not adding value. At the end of the day, intention matters. Words carry way more weight than people expect. And you need to start choosing them on purpose. The delivery of the words you use, whether that be written, whether that be on video, whether that be in person, whether it be on a social media post, doesn't matter. The delivery either supports the message or is killing it. And you don't want to be the latter. You want to add value. If you have a different take, that's perfectly fine. But you don't have to be degrading to the original poster or the original person talking about it. You can come at it from as like, hey, you know what? That's interesting. This is my experience behind it. And you can politely agree to disagree. Nothing wrong with that. But this is such a big thing, and it's such needed in today's world right now that I really wanted to spend some time talking about this. So here's what I want to leave you with. Before you hit send, stop and ask yourself, does this sound like me? Or am I trolling? Am I just trying to grab attention? Another topic we didn't even talk about, the whole narcissist thing. Or am I actually adding value? Read it out loud. Think about it. The cool thing about it is if you stop and do that, when you read it out loud, you may stop and realize that what you're saying is what you meant to say, but how you're saying it sounds kind of like you're degrading that other person. You're calling them an idiot without, maybe you are calling them, or maybe you're not calling them an idiot, but it sounds like you're calling them an idiot. And you can stop and rewrite it before you hit that send. Because I'll tell you what, a lot of times people will post stuff that might be contradicting my experience, but how they do it makes the world of difference on how I perceive it. I've seen people come in and they're just like, no, this is totally wrong. I totally disagree with you, blah, blah, blah. And they go on a rant about it and they just sound like a jerk. They sound like an ass. And I get other people, it's like, you know what? I hear what you're saying here. This has been my personal experience. And they say almost the same thing. They just said it differently. I still may not agree with that person, but I have respect for them. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. That's cool that you have a different experience than I do. And I'm okay with that. I mean, we can have a civilized conversation about it. But think about everything you post, everything you comment. Stop and pay attention before actually hitting send. Because the things that make the biggest difference go back to the 3 layers: your words, your tone, and your actions. Those 3 work together. And if you aren't paying attention to what those 3 things are doing for you and how people can perceive you, you're probably losing a lot of people that you probably shouldn't be. And this is what creates true authenticity. This is what creates real connection and alignment. That's the alignment part, because you want to make sure that everything you do is aligned. That's going to go back to your personal brand. What makes you, you. If you can do that, people will pay more attention. You know, I can't count the number of times people have actually come back to me and they've messaged me privately and said, hey, I read this post or I listened to this podcast or whatever thing I put out there. And they just want to say, thank you so much. I really liked what you put out there. Now, they may not want to post it publicly because I may have gone something they didn't want to be part of the argument game that's out there, because there are people that are trolling, right? And that's okay. I know that I hit a nerve in a good way. And that's okay. That's what I want. I just want people to think. I want people to pay attention to what they do and be more intentional about what they do, because everybody is so much into creating content at the speed of light and so quick. They won't have a real conversation, but they'll send you texts. And usually the text is like a book. It would have been faster to have a call. And this is coming from somebody who's not a big fan of phone calls, right? Um, we rush past so much stuff. It's time to slow down a little bit and be more intentional about the words we use, the tone behind them, and the actions we take to prove what we say we actually believe. I hope this was helpful for you. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and there's an interesting conversation that's happened this last weekend with a friend and client of mine talking about, he was like, Eli, you should stop putting yourself out there as an email marketer because you're a communications expert. Everything you do in every aspect, because I do stuff other than just email, but that's my primary platform. And he's like, everything you do is all about how do you communicate more effectively, which ultimately is what I believe. That's what I do. That's what I like helping people with. And I don't care what platform it is. I just email happens to be my platform of choice. If I can help a client post something on LinkedIn that sounds like them and it's their voice and it's their personality and their real story and their heart, they're proud of that. And their people will respond to it. People will reply back thanking them for that. They'll appreciate it. And that's what we want. And that's what we as consumers on the other side of reading these things or watching these videos, that's what we want, especially in today's world with so much AI and mass-produced stuff. People want something that feels genuine, something that feels like it came from the person. Because that's how we as humans connect with each other. There's an energy transference that happens there. And that's a good thing. We need more of that. So hopefully this was helpful. It went way longer than I thought it was. I'm looking at this going, 27 minutes. Okay. I figured it'd be another 15 minutes or so. Apologize for being so long for a solo. I don't like to do long solo episodes, but I kind of had a little bit of a beef to put out there, and I think it's such an important thing. So if this made sense, if this resonated with you, please reach out and let me know. I really want to hear them. Let me know what you think. And do you like these kind of episodes, by the way? Because I do like to hear that too. In the past, I've had people reach out and told me that they really enjoyed the solo episodes, which is cool. But I want to make sure I'm still on the right track when I do them. So please let me know. What are your thoughts? What'd you think? And of course, anything else that I can do to help support you, reach out, let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Now, if you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rock star.